Hello everyone, wherever you are watching from all over the world. Welcome to this Excel course. I promise you it's going to be fun, it's going to be educative, and I want you to stay with me from the beginning to the end. Now, this is the first lesson. This is lesson 1 of this Excel course. So we will look at the introduction part of it. So let's just go straight into the lesson. I'm going to click and launch my Excel. Then I'll open a blank document. So once you install Excel and you open for the very first time, this is how it opens for you, and this is the interface. Now let's look at one or two things that we can do. Now here within this interface, the very first thing I want to do is that we can come to File, and then we'll go to More, and then we can come to Account to see the type of Excel that we'll be using for this course. Of course, we'll be using the LTSC Professional Plus 2024, the latest from Microsoft. I will want to appeal or advise that you upgrade your Excel to this if you are not using the Microsoft 365, so that you can get the best out of this course. I will leave a link in the description that a step-by-step guide that can be used to install this particular Excel. That is one. Number two, also we can come to the Office theme, and then we can actually change the theme to whichever one you want. We have the dark gray, we have the black, we have the white, and then we have system setting, and then we have the colorful, the one of course that we are used to. So let's just maintain this for this particular course. Now that is the first thing we want to do. Now let's go back. Now I want to expand, and then we have it. So this is how your Excel opens for you. And now let's explore this Excel interface one after the other so that we can, of course, get used to it even if you are a complete beginner. Let's go. Now let's start with the introduction. Now once you install Excel and you open, like I said, Excel is a spreadsheet application. It's very popular and it's about 40 years old this year, 2025. Excel can perform so many functions and it's very smart, and it's just going to be, it's an application that will be around for years to come. So it's very important that if you want to be efficient as a business person, as a worker in a place, that is a tool that you have to know how to make use of it. Now, one of the very first things that we should talk about is what we call a workbook versus what we call a worksheet in Excel. Now, we can see that a workbook is just like a whole book. When you open Excel, you are opening an entire workbook. So within a workbook, there are several pages. So think of it like when you have a book, within a book, there are several pages. So a workbook is like a whole book. So also an Excel workbook, just like a whole file that you just open. For example, the one you see on your screen that says book 1. The one that says book 1 is an Excel workbook. Now within that workbook, there are several sheets. For example, you have this Excel structure, you have sheet 1. I can go ahead and create another one. Can go ahead and create as many as possible. So just think of a workbook and a worksheet to be. A workbook is like a whole book, while a worksheet is just like a page within a workbook. I think that's a basic explanation that I can give to it. That's that there are other things that we can do with the workbook. We can save a workbook. If we come to file, there are several things that you can do within a workbook. You can save it. We have not saved this particular workbook, so we can save it and then select where we want to save it. We can save it in our desktop, to have it in our desktop, and then we can give it a name. Now have a name for our workbook. We can see this is the name that appears here. Now also there are other things that we can do within a worksheet. Also we can, if we come to this worksheet, this is our worksheet, this is our sheet tab, this is sheet 1, this is sheet 2, 3, 4, 5. We can have as many as possible. So within a worksheet, there are several things that you can do. For example, you can right click, you can change the tab color. For example, I can give it a green color, and then you can see that we now have a green color. If we right click again, we can hide this, we can protect this sheet, we can view the code, we can move it, or we can rename it, we can delete, or we can insert new sheet. So there are several things that we can do with a worksheet in Excel. So all of these, we are going to explore them one after the other as we go on in this lesson. Now let's look at the Excel interface, Now starting with the Excel interface, let's start with the title bar. We have the whole of this to be the title bar. Now within the title bar, we have where we have the name bar where the names appear. We have a search bar where you can search for all kinds of things within Excel. And then we have a place where you can minimize, maximize, and close this entire workbook. Now that is that. Now also within the Excel interface, we have the quick access toolbar around this place. You can see some icons. We come to all of this later. We have the quick access toolbar there. So from here, if you click on this drop down, this little icon, you can do a lot of things with your quick access toolbar. You can customize it. You can add new icon set to it and all of that. So there are a lot of things that we can do. If you come to more command, this box will pop up, and then you can come to all command or popular command or all command. You see a lot of command within Excel that you can add to your quick access toolbar. That is if you want to do that. Now also within the Excel interface, we have the ribbon. From here, all these are the ribbons. We have the file, the home. Within all of them, there are several things that we can do: layout, data, review, and all of this. So we explore all of these as we go on in this particular course. And then others within the ribbon, we also have this set, this icon set, very giant, very large. There are a lot of things that we can do. That if you are within the home tab, for example, within the home tab, all these icons are working within the home tab. If you go to insert, you see a new set of icons. If you go to draw, you see a new set, and so on and so forth. And also you can customize your ribbon. For example, if you click on this particular developer and you right click, and then you can customize the ribbon or you can collapse it. So if I click on customize, this box will pop up, and then within the main tab, I can decide to remove any of these, or if there's any tab that is not there, I can decide to add it. For example, let's say I want to remove developer, I will just untick, and then I'll click on OK. And then if you come to my no ribbon now, you see that developer is actually not there. If I want to re-add it, I simply have to click on any of the tab, right click, customize ribbons, and come here and tick developer once again and click on OK. And then my developer is actually visible once again. That is that within the ribbon. And then also another thing we should know is that we have this to be the name box. Now in Excel, every cell has a name. All these cells, they have a name. So we'll come to all of that. So this is the name box where displays the names of the particular cell that is selected. This we have the formula bar where we can type our formulas and functions, and where we can write whatever we want to write. It's very big and can take a lot of things. And then also within that, we have the worksheet area. All these places are the worksheet area. There are a lot of things, and the worksheet area contains cells, contain a lot of cells, and the cells are made up of rows and columns. They are made up of rows and columns. So within that, we come to all of that later. And also within the Excel interface, we have the sheet tab. All of this. This is sheet 1, this is sheet 2, this is sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5, and so on and so forth. So we can have as many as possible. We have the sheet tab, and then also we have the status bar. This place we refer to it as the status bar. So because it displays important information, the status bar displays important information. For example, if I enter, let's say, these 3 values here, and I decide to highlight it this way, now on my status bar, it gives me 3 things: the average, it gives me the count, and the sum. As we can see on our status bar, we have the average of numbers, we have the count, and then we have the sum. So the status bar is very useful. You can customize it to include other. For example, by right click, you can include the maximum, the minimum, and all of other stuff within your status bar. So if you highlight any numerical values in Excel on your status bar, you have quick analysis, average, count, and the sum for you. And then if it is alphabet, let's say this, no, you cannot perform calculation with all of these, but the status bar will still show you the count, and then we have 3. So those are the things that we can do with our status. And then we have here, we can set our page layout here, and all of these places. We can expand our page, we can increase it, we can decrease it, we can set the margin, and all of that within this particular place. Now, other thing that we should know is what we call cell, row, columns, and ranges as part of the introductory aspect of this course. Now, cells are these small boxes. There are these small boxes that appears, and like I said, there are a lot of things that we can do. That every cell in Excel has a name. For example, this cell, I'm clicking on, this is column E, and this is row 4. So this cell, the name will be E4. And if you check it in the name box, you see it in the name box. So every cell in Excel has a name. In these cells, you can enter values, number, letters, and all sorts of things. Whichever things you want, you can enter. When I talk about the rows, these are the rows, the horizontal aspect of it like this. These are the rows, while these are the columns. So these are the columns. The one labeled alphabetically are the columns. And you can check from the beginning to the end how many columns we actually have. This is A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. So if you want to get to the last, you can just click on the first, press your Control key and your arrow key. This is the last, XFD. This is the last alphabet, customized one that we have in Excel. And if you want to get that's the column. If you want to get that of the row, same thing. Just click here and say, press on your Control key and the down arrow on your keyboard. It takes you to the last, which is about 1 million row plus. So we have rows and columns in Excel. To get the number of columns and rows that we have in Excel, you can actually use formulas. For example, if I want to get the number of rows, I can come here and say, for example, equals to, I'll say columns. I want to calculate for rows, and I'll say columns, and then I'll pick this from here, like this. Now click on enter, and Excel tells me that in Excel we have 16,348 rows that are there. So from here, from A to the last, which is the XFD, is the number is actually 16,384. And to get that of the columns, I can say come to and say equals to rows. I'll say rows, and then I'll pick any of the empty column like this, and then I'll press on enter. And then you see that in Excel we have 1,048,576 columns that we have. So from here, from this number 1 to the last. For example, put on your cursor here and press your Control plus the down arrow. It takes you to the last, which is 1,048,000, and so on and so forth. So those are the formulas that you can use to count. And also there's a formula called count blank that you can also use. For example, you can say equals to count blank. You can say count blank. This is the formula. And then what I want to count the columns. I press on enter. Then you can see that we have the same figure with this. You can see it. So if I want to get that of the rows also, I can also use the same count blank. So it's also a function that is useful that you will want to learn. So I'll just pick this like this and press on enter, and then you can see that this value here and this value here, this is the same with this one, and this is the same with this one. So we have used two different functions to actually get that. So these are the columns and the rows that we actually have in thank you. So these are range. If I select this, then if I select this range, it can be dynamic ranges like this. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal, it can be all of this. So we come to all of this as we go on. Then of course shortcuts, very important, very useful. As you learn, as you advance in skill, you begin to use a lot of shortcuts. Learn about shortcut is that, for example, there's particular thing you want to, for example, let me write a number here. This is 89. Just in this number, I want to format it, bold and all of that. I can actually do it. How do I know what shortcuts to use? I can press on my hotkey. Once I press on my hotkey, you see all of this selected. And then I can come to where I can have bold. This is bold under home. So which means I'm going to press on H. Now once I press on H, it gives me others that I can select from. Now to bold this particular 89, you can see bold is 1. So I can just press on 1. And then you see that the bold format has been, of course, applied to it. So there are a lot like that we can learn. But the easiest way is that just use your hotkey to navigate through those shortcuts. So the one I can remember, the one I can give out, I'll begin to use them as many as possible. So for example, if I want to go back to the previous format, I can just press on Ctrl Z, and then the format that I apply is actually gone. So this is just the introductory part of it. Watch out for the next lesson. Thank you so much.